So, welcome everyone. I am Dr. Jen Randall-Reyes, and I am the Assistant Director for the Master of Counseling programs, plural now, here at Prescott College. This is our first Zoomcast series. So, if you are watching this back, you are about to see a really interesting interview with one of our advanced practitioners in our somatics emphasis. And I'll let Davida introduce herself in just a moment. And then we also have Valerie with us. And then Valerie, I'll let you introduce yourself as well. What we're going to do is a bit of an interview process with Davida about somatics, her interest in that specific area, how she got started in the field, and then a bit of a demonstration so that those of you who are watching this back have the opportunity to see what the somatics emphasis looks like in real time. So let's jump in. Davida, I would love to hear from you. Tell me the story of how you came to be in the mental health field.
Oh, okay. It's always a good question. Well, one is my mother was in the field. She was a clinical social worker, so I sort of grew up with that, and then I took a very different route and was in the dance movement world. I was a performance artist. And then I was working with people teaching dance and movement as a meditation practice, as a mindfulness practice. And in my mid 40s, I was in an accident where I broke my neck. And I was in the emergency room. Um, I couldn't feel the whole left side of my body. And it was kind of 50-50 whether I was going to be able to walk again. And I thought to myself, okay, Davida, all of the work I used to do was all about my body, and I might not have the use of at least half of it. What am I going to do to make my life meaningful? Um, and it was at that point in the emergency room before I went into surgery, I thought, okay, if I get out of here, I'm going to have to take a leap of faith and get licensed in clinical counseling. And so thankfully, the surgery worked. I had amazing doctors and amazing people helping me. It was a long recovery, but 6 months later, I was started my program at Prescott. It was a little too early, probably, to be starting. I would have to say traumatized, but that's a little bit more my personality of kind of going for something. And I had amazing instructors and teachers and just the support of Prescott College in general and the teachers and the students that even though I was still, I would say, fairly traumatized the first year of my program, um, it really helped me kind of land and process. I mean, I had a lot of external help processing all of that trauma, but it helped me kind of move towards of, yes, I'm really on this path. So that was my personal kind of life said, okay, you got to do something different. And so here I am, thankfully able to move and dance. And so I still use that work, but really landing it in much more in the mental health field and counseling. Yeah.
I absolutely had no idea of that
Yeah.
backstory. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, we could go on a whole different Zoomcast now that I'm thinking about resilience and grit and strength
Yeah.
and post-traumatic growth next time. That's
Yes.
episode 2 with Davida at some point in the future.
Exactly. So hopefully I bring all of that into the classes and and into my work in one sense, just holding it. But yes, that's a whole different conversation that we can
Wow,
have. Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, what truths were you taught during your training that have since been upheld or overthrown?
The first thing that comes to me is a truth about the wisdom, the innate wisdom that resides in the body and
Mm,
resides in the client, that that still holds true.
mhm.
That no matter how much I think I know what might be happening for a client, when I slow down and come back and be curious about, wait, what's going on for them, their innate wisdom and always comes forward.
Mm,
And in one sense, it's like I have to get out of my own way to allow what actually is happening for the client to, come to the field and open. So um, the idea of, that I know better does not hold.
No.
That, and a lot of my training in at Prescott was certainly around that the client really knows what they need, and it's not out up to us to try and fix, change, or better them in some way. It really is to be with them in the process and see what's going to be best for them in
Mhm.
terms of the changes they want to make, what they need to discover, and what the process is for them. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Do you feel like any have been overthrown? Any of those pearls of wisdom maybe that you were taught in your graduate training?
That was a good question. Uh, I think in some sense, and I think the counseling world in general is shifting in its
Mhm.
way, but where we used to come and approach this kind of work as therapists, like I know a little more, and I'm going to sit back
Mhm.
and have a sense of I know what's happening, and I'm not going to show what is going on for me, right? That I'm going to be a little bit of a blank slate. And
Mhm.
that keeps disappearing again and again, where I'm really engaged with
Mhm.
people. They know my process in terms of emotions, like my tears will show up in sessions
Yeah.
if there's something that's really sad that we're feeling together.
Mhm.
So, in that sense, uh, it's moving away. Like I am very transparent in my work. I don't separate me as a person from the work I do, even though we still stay focused on the client and their process. I'm with them. Um, so I don't know if that answers the question. I think the training more and more is geared towards we are real people here. And, we're going to show up with who we are as
Mhm.
professionals, but I'm not going to be this sort of blank slate in a sense. That makes sense?
Only totally.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of my own training and experience and realizing, oh, yeah, that is really how we were led, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
even reflecting on one of my very first clients in a practicum experience that's really got upset with me in the closing process when there was a thank you offered from that client. I said, oh, I'm just a mirror. And they
Hmm.
really reacted negatively to that statement. And it took me a
Mm,
couple of years and a lot more clients before I figured out why that was so upsetting. But realizing,
yeah.
no, the thing that really worked in that session and in those sessions with that client was being me, was showing up as
Yeah.
myself authentically.
Yes.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Because
think
they
that's
don't want to
exactly
be
what you're speaking
alone,
to.
right?
No. Right, right. Like, who wants to go into a room? Well, maybe there are some. Who am I to judge? That want to be in a room with a very aloof kind of presence, right? That
Hmm.
stands removed from the experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not somatic
Exactly.
work and certainly not trauma work that I
Right.
specialize in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great point.
And somatic work in general too, that's something where there was this very traditional thing of we don't touch clients, we don't show them our
Mm-hmm.
emotions, and that has really shifted. And in somatic counseling, oftentimes now I'm not in the same room with people
Right.
anymore, so touch isn't possible, but
Mm-hmm.
to really bring of like if I were there with you, I my sense of wanting to put my hand on your shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
what would that feel like? Or,
Right.
can you imagine me sitting there right next to you and being with you in this,
Mm.
so that there's a somatic sense of togetherness, right?
Wow.
Where we're not this separate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think the body in general too is something that's being more and more addressed in counseling, and
Mm-hmm.
and that it's not just the thoughts that we're speaking about, but actually the full holistic experience of, what does it feel like to sit here with me? Where do you notice your breath? Where do you notice what's happening in your belly right now as you're talking? You know?
It's
Yeah.
really interesting. Yeah, beautifully
Yeah.
said. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a bit of a shift, although I don't think so for you personally.
Okay.
How do you live Prescott's mission of pairing social justice advocacy with environmental stewardship?
Hmm. Such a potent question.
Hmm.
One that certainly leaves me feeling like I could always, always do more.
Hmm.
Um, you
Ditto to
know,
that.
yeah,
Ditto.
but in my kind of subtle ways, just one is always kind of really encouraging clients in one sense to kind of look into their community. What's happening in their community? How can they interact with their community? Whether they go take a walk, in the park and see what's growing there. What is it like there? You know, what happens at the school down the street? And sometimes I will encourage clients to volunteer
Mm-hmm.
because there is such a sense of aloneness that many clients feel, and that they don't feel like they're a part of something. And there's just this thing of, if we feel that helplessness, let's help someone. And so not always, but sometimes there is an opportunity to bring in, like, well, is there a way you can get involved in your community? Just, subtly that way. And so, in one sense, bringing the sense of community to support the individual, and then to have them be part of. And if we're a part of our community, we start to see more about how we live our life and how that affects the community. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
Certainly, my own personal carbon footprint is
Oh.
now pretty minimal,
Mm-hmm.
considering I don't have an office anymore right now. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working online. I've moved, I stopped keeping paper files. All of it's online. All of my, nobody's sending me checks in the mail. Like, it's all through online,
Right.
secure, software system. And um, so that part I'm doing. When I had my office, we would have, I would encourage people to drink the tea there. I would have, regular cups that I would have to go wash, that sort of like minimal thing of really how do I minimize my own personal carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if that's quite answering the question per se. It's quite a huge topic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I certainly have a, a sense of welcoming to all types of lifestyle, all sorts of people from different backgrounds, different cultures, a sense of welcoming of diversity, sort of in my own practice,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, and then I engage in dialogue when it's appropriate with clients, asking uncomfortable questions of, what is it you're noticing? What's it like for you to live in, I happen to be in Marin County, which is a pretty privileged place
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. And, we're not a very diverse group of people here. And
Mm-hmm.
so I do ask, what is it like for you to live in this place?
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect you personally?
Mm-hmm.
So I engage in conversations when it's right, when it's an appropriate time, especially if they start bringing in something that were aware of the news, we open up the conversations, and it can be difficult conversation to have, but one that I think is really important and can lead to some deep, intimate conversations when you tackle the difficult um, domain of social justice and advocacy and what we're doing to the environment.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question
It
particularly, but
does. I'm even taken with just that simple practice of having mugs in your practice, right? Like cups that you actually have to wash and use and be reused. And I know with the current COVID-19 pandemic, we have had to change in a very
Yes.
fast, right, and really robust ways that I don't think much of the mental health world anticipated. And to pivot back to that statement, gosh, just the inherent community, the sense of community that you're building and sharing that kind of ritual of creating
Yeah.
tea together, drinking tea together, right, within a session. But then also having it in reusable cups, right?
Yes.
And like what that teaches well beyond just about recycling, right? Or our carbon footprint, but around how we interact with each other, how we take care of our
Hmm.
space, how we take care of our space together. And it's almost like that ripple effect where it may not seem like this huge movement, revolutionary type act, but it really is in some ways because sometimes, at least for me, I think the most revolutionary acts are disrupting a system that says ease is the way to go, right? So
Yes,
like not
exactly.
having the disposable cup there and partaking in that and not teaching that or modeling that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And just like simple things of having the recycling there and having a little compost there that even though I don't insist that clients use it, there's a sense of that it's there.
Right, it's an offering.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As we would say in the adventure therapy world, challenge by choice.
Exactly.
Right?
And I always suggest after too to clients that they take a walk before
Mm,
they get back in their car. And thankfully, where I had my office, there was a nice big park there. So, I would just encourage people to go out and take a walk after the
mhm,
session to let it integrate and use that time to connect with the air we breathe, to connect with the sun if it's out, to connect with the trees. That too is part of the process.
mhm. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so I think this goes hand in hand with that. How would you define self-care, and what does your practice look like?
Ah. Sometimes the two can be very different. Um,
Uh-huh.
but in general, I mean, I play with that, but there are certainly days where I think, oh, wow, I've just I've overbooked myself and
Mhm,
overextended myself. So I have
right.
to constantly, one is check on, wait a minute, I know I could use this extra, financial clients, but where am I right now? So I've
Mhm,
learned how to, one, tune into myself. So I take a few moments in the morning time, in the evening time, and in the daytime. Just say, okay, Davida, how are you feeling right now?
mm,
Well, take a breath. What is it you need? What do you want right now? And I just give myself a little bit of attention there,
mm,
and to give myself a bit of space of, okay, do I need to take a walk right now? Do I need to eat something? Do I need to drink some water? You know, um, so that's something that I've had to really learn diligently to incorporate was to slow myself down and to give myself just a few moments of check-in, right?
mhm,
Of how I'm feeling, what's happening. Um, self-care definitely for me, I take walks almost every day. And even if it's just 5 minutes in between clients, I'll run outside. I'll play a song and dance. If I'm not able to run outside, I'll, do some dance or put on a song when I'm in my office and just let myself shake it out or move.
mhm,
That just a few minutes of moving my body can really shift my own inner state of being,
mm,
how I feel. So,
mhm.
um, that's something I do. I mean, like everybody, I try and get good sleep, but like everybody else, this past year and a half, it's been impossible. Right?
Oh,
So,
right? Like just watching a collective anxiety
yeah.
skyrocket.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But I think the biggest piece for me is trying to incorporate a sense of kindness to
Mm,
myself. And even as I say that, I just can feel the gentle tenderness of, oh, right, okay. No matter if I, missed a client or missed something or, something didn't go well, like, can I still be kind to myself?
Hmm.
And
Right.
that's just such a big piece of self-care, um, that it's almost like I can't encourage people enough and encourage myself enough because that inner critic, that inner judge can be so loud and
Hmm.
come so quickly, that it can really beat me up. I mean, I have a
Right.
little, part of myself that certainly is all geared up to beat me up at every corner, and so
Hmm.
the more and more of like, wait, okay, I know. So you missed this part. Okay, yep, I get it. Okay. And how can I just allow myself to be a little bit more kind? Um, so I think for me that's a big piece of self-care.
Hmm.
Um, and making sure I don't get overworked in a world that really supports overwork. And
Uh-huh.
and in a field of we're here to help people. And so, how much do we extend being available for others? How much do we go past our own boundaries? It's hard. Like session times I have are 50 minutes, and so an hour goes by, and I'm like, oh, we have to kind of wrap up now. And I've had to really learn, like, wait, those 10 minutes are really important for me
Hmm.
and for the client. To
Right.
really um, so boundaries, in a are a good thing. That's an
Right.
important
Boundaries are
thing, right?
healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it
Who
can be
knew?
hard. Exactly, it can be really hard, and that's something I've
Yeah.
had to learn along the way.
Hmm.
And I still have to kind of go, okay, Davida, wait, let's check in here. Is this too much? Let's slow down. Yeah.
Hmm.
So does that
I
answer that
l-
question?
oh, yeah.
Okay.
I love the question that you're asking yourself too. And it may seem like semantics, but I think what you're doing is really powerful. The difference between saying, Davida, what do you want versus what do you need, right? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
always asking, what do you need? What can I get you? Maybe
Right.
I'm always asking, what do you need? What can I get you? And I think that's a really powerful shift to what do I want?
Yes, it's a very, very different statement.
Right. I'm
And
going to use that. I'm stealing that today,
yeah,
Davida.
you're welcome to. I challenge clients,
Yeah.
oftentimes, depending, but I will say, okay, a couple times a day, this is your homework. And I'm not a big fan of homework, but this one
Hmm.
is an important one, is to every, once every hour, once every couple hours, or a couple times a day, just stop, go into your belly, into your breath, and just ask yourself, what do I want? And let whatever comes come, welcome it. Even if it's, I want a trip to Hawaii, great, say yes, yes. We can't do that right now, but I so love that you want that.
Hmm.
And then go on with your day.
Wow.
Like if it's a want that, I really want a good cup of tea right now. I can get myself that.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm going to do that. To just welcome the want.
Right.
And it can really shift our relationship to ourselves and also let ourselves have a
Hmm.
moment to see what's really true inside. Right?
Powerful.
Yeah.
So I hope you all have enjoyed my therapy session with Davida. 'Cause that's basically what we're doing now. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
let's do this. We're going to
Okay.
pivot into the second half of our time together. So give us an idea, if you would, of what your day looks like, acting as if we have no prior knowledge of your specialty area, right, of
Mhm.
somatics. And then once you've done that, show us. Then I'll let you and Valerie go into our role play and our demonstration.
Okay. Great. Let's see what my day looks like. You mean once I start working or like
Yeah.
in the okay, just wanted to clarify that. Um, so let's see. It certainly is different now because all of it is online. I'm still just working with clients online. And so it can be a little finagling getting the Zoom settings right. Can you hear me? So there's
Hmm.
just always this awkward, wait, is your camera on? Can you hear me? Wait, log off again, log back on again, right? And so I always try and shift a little bit of like, okay, so now that we're here, let's just take a
Mm.
moment to settle in.
Mm.
I'm here in my room, you're here in yours. Let's take a moment and let's just kind of breathe together. I generally will kind of settle in and to see, okay, what's moving through you right now? What's the sense that you're feeling? Is there anything going on in your body? Anything that's like really happening right now? And so I take a moment to drop into the now because we
Mm.
so always quickly wanting to go to sharing stories or talking about something, and
Mhm.
um, that already moves us out of our kind of innate sense of feeling
Mm.
inside. So I do that. Sometimes I will, summarize if I know there was something really big that we got to the week before.
Mhm.
If there was a real vulnerable piece that came up, I absolutely acknowledge that and ask, so what was it like for you to have that moving? How did that affect your week? Did you notice it? What was that like?
Mm.
Um, just so they know I'm holding that with them and tracking that. And, depending on who I'm working with, whether, we're specifically working with trauma, whether we're specifically working in relationship with a couple, because I do both. Half of my clients are with couples and half is with individuals. So it just
Oh.
kind of really, those they're different pathways, even
Mhm.
though a lot of it is the sort of the same of like, okay, what's it like to sit here? Um, and I bring in the relational field of, all right, what can we do to support what's going on here for you?
Mhm.
Um, I do generally try to stay in 50-minute sessions and
Mhm.
work with clients generally once a week, sometimes more if there's, more crisis type of stuff happening,
Right.
sometimes less if I've been working with clients for a long time and they feel really good and grounded and sort of their initial sort of goals in counseling has kind of been met. We
Mhm.
start to rearrange and see what really is working for them. I for me generally I like to have I work a few like 2, 3 clients and then I like to have a nice little break. That's
Mhm.
part of my self-care.
Mhm.
I find that if I 6 clients in a day is good, but I
Ooh.
have definitely gone to 8.
Mhm.
This past year, just uh, and it's a lot. So I really try not to schedule more than 3
Yeah.
clients in a row, and I
Mhm.
have those breaks, and then I have a nice long break. That's important for me to settle in. So that's kind of what my working day looks like,
Mhm.
and the work I do with clients. And again, it varies because I never know what somebody is going to bring per se. And
Right.
as soon as I have my idea about it, because I met with them last week or I've known them for a while and we have this particular theme going on, but there was a whole week of life
And a
that
lot of
happened.
life. Right.
And sometimes I have no idea.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
have to have
Gosh, you're
room
making
for,
such a
okay, what's that?
right. You're making a valid. So before I let you role play, I just have to point out what a powerful piece of advice that was without you probably even realizing you were giving advice
Mm,
there to our future students, not to overschedule, right? And even that piece around,
yes.
okay, in the midst of a global pandemic, I went to 8 a day because the need was so great. I'm sure it was the same on my end, right? There was just such an overwhelming need for counseling
Yeah.
services during this last year and a half, almost two
Yeah.
years, right?
Yeah.
And I think I just very naturally did what you're talking about, which is if I had to schedule that many people in a day, if I made the choice, not had to, if I made the choice to schedule that many people in a day, I would take breaks in the midst
Yeah.
of a day.
Yes.
I would say that's one of the things that often with my supervisees, right? People that I'm supervising for licensure in the state of West Virginia, that's one of the most common new caveat kind of areas that I go, little asterisk right there. Let me see your
Yes.
schedule and let's not have 4, 5, 6 people back to back without you getting a break.
Yeah. It, I remember the days when I was getting my licensure hours and it was
Hmm.
like, I just need to
I
get
have
more
to get
hours,
all of
more
the
hours.
hours. Mhm.
And after a while, there is you just don't I notice in myself I start to not care
Mhm.
what's happening with
Right.
somebody who I'm sitting with. And
Mhm.
that is just the biggest red flag. It just brings tears to my eyes of what it what it must be like for somebody to sit with a counselor who all of a sudden gets to a point where they just don't care.
Where they're
That
checked
is,
out. Yeah. Oh, like all of
yeah,
the courage it takes to get into that therapeutic relationship and then to have someone checked out.
yeah, yeah. So it's a big red flag. And now I'm
Mhm.
really, really diligent of, not going because I'm generally somebody who says, yes, okay, yes, why not? I'll work on Friday night at 8 o'clock at night. I know, no, 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 Davida, you can't.
No, no,
You
we don't do
can't.
that anymore. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the live and learn portion, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we would love to see it. So could you
Okay.
give us a bit of a demonstration?
Absolutely. So hi Valerie. Thank you for kind of being here and jumping in. And I don't know where this is going to go or how this is going to happen. And as we kind of start here, I want to just give space for whatever arises to be here, with us, within the safety of this kind of container. Mm. Um, and one also for you, Valerie, um, to have the permission, if you will, if we're going down a road that doesn't feel good or comfortable to you, to pause us, to say, hold on a second, Davida, because I want to be right there with you. Okay. Um, so I don't know if we're going to take the time to introduce you. I know you're a student here at Prescott, um, or if we're kind of launching in. I sort of launched in, and now I'm realizing like there might be, we might want to just say if there are a few words and what it's like for you, and then we'll kind of slide in to see where we go in the next 10, 15 minutes or so.
I'm happy to be here. And just a little bit about me. I've been a body worker for 25 years and have thought about counseling education for quite some time. And just started at Prescott last last September.
Mm.
This is the middle of my third semester. And as I was telling Jody and Hannah and Jen before you came on, somatics is my jam, and I'm totally into it. And also an open floor teacher, and just love the process of um, learning through the body. So happy to be here.
Wonderful.
Not sure what we're going to do, but I'm happy to be here with you.
Yay. Thank you, Valerie. Yeah. So what struck me as I was listening to you is the sense of, one is getting kicked off of Zoom 3 times and the sense of settling. Right. What does that mean to you? Like, how do you settle in your body?
Um, right now, it's feeling my feet on the ground
Mm.
and literally feeling the back of my chair against my back. So some support and finding a mental image, if you will, of how my body is in space. And then taking a deep breath and seeing if I
Mm.
expand a little bit and then come back into my body a little more. So,
Mm. So I wonder if it would be okay with you if we took a nice deep breath together.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you kind of sink in more with your feet on the ground, just kind of feeling the chair along your back, just kind of sensing that breath that we took in together. What else do you notice as we sit here?
I'm aware of my hands resting on my thighs.
Mm. Mm. What's it like to have those hands resting on your thighs?
Comfortable, easeful, there's
Mm.
ease,
Is that
support.
something that it's supportive and easeful? Is that something that you find yourself doing, like when maybe as a way to settle or when there's stuff that's stress that comes, do you actually find yourself bringing your hands to your thighs?
When I'm in the process of settling, yes.
Good. So it's just sometimes it's good to kind of note the simple sense of kind of resource that's right there with you at all times.
Mm.
And as you're doing it, I'm noticing my hands are now on my thighs, just um, so I can just feel the warmth of my hands, and it does feel comforting to me too. Yeah. What's it like for you as we kind of sink into the comfort of your hands on the thighs and feet on the floor? What's it like for you to just share this with me and be here in this moment?
It's helping me to sink a little deeper into my sensations, the
Oh.
voice, and have you mirror them. I just felt a little bit more weight in my body. It was as if I sank a little deeper into the chair.
Hmm. And that experience of sinking a little deeper into the chair, that there's some sort of coming a little bit more into your own experience in the room that you're at.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
As we sink into that, is there anything else that's moving through you? Any kind of feeling or sensation or even thoughts that might come in, or just to be with that?
I'm becoming more aware of my breath.
Mm.
So I'm able to notice breath moving through my chest primarily.
What's it like for you to have that awareness of breath moving through your chest and being aware of your breath?
It's bringing me into more stillness, or it's then like I feel
Mm.
still in my body. a little bit more present.
Oh, so the stillness that is now arriving, is that something that you go to, is that something that's in your day often or not so much? Like, what's it like to have the stillness here?
Not nearly enough.
Not nearly enough, yes. So then, Valerie, to kind of, I wonder what it would be like to let us kind of milk, shall we say, that sense of stillness. That sounds like there's a busyness in your life where you don't have quite enough spaciousness. And to be with that spaciousness just in this moment. So wonder what it might feel like to bring a hand to your chest. As you were saying, you were kind of aware of your breath. What does that feel like?
Comforting again. Yeah.
Comforting. Mm. You seem to have a lot of comfort from your own hands. One on your thighs and the chest. Mhm.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me into, I get curious now, this sense of comfort, what role that might play in your life.
Mm. It's, I mean, something that I seek as much as possible. Right.
Uh-huh.
There's a, there's um, an awareness of trying to make myself comfortable throughout the day. It's, yeah, the return to comfort is something that I go for several times a day.
Uh-huh. It strikes me in that the sense of that, like it's a work that you have to somehow find comfort, that you're working at it.
Um, Sometimes.
Did I get that right? No,
Um,
okay.
I think
Sometimes.
I can see how you would get that from what I said, but it's just, yeah, there's times it depends on the day for sure.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And is the comfort, uh, this just because it's up and it seems like such a potent um, piece around comfort, where we find comfort, that, um, and as we're talking, I want to know a little more about your relationship to comfort. Like, generally, are you the type of person that seeks comfort for yourself, or do you seek comfort from others? And
Oh,
what?
for sure. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're the kind of person that, like, you know how to comfort yourself, and that's your go-to place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is such a important piece to have as a relationship with ourselves. And then I get curious, well, what is that like if possibly seek comfort from others?
Mm-hmm.
What is that like for you? Um, yeah. So we
Yeah.
can.
I have people who I seek comfort from, my fiance for sure. Yeah. He's the
Mhm.
primary person that I would seek
Yeah.
sometimes from friends. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, guess I consider it my responsibility first and foremost. And then if I can't do it for myself, then I'll ask for some help.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I we're kind of opening the door here, and I'm just wondering what it feels like for you right now, what you're noticing, as we kind of went into the concept of comfort and your tendency to comfort yourself first.
Mm, mm.
What is it like to be sharing that with me right now?
It's okay. It feels honest and a little bit raw or a little bit vulnerable, but
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I was kind of feeling, and I wanted to bring attention there a little bit about what it was like for you, because
Mm,
comfort is such an intimate, tender piece from when we were little babies of how we got comfort when we're sad, when we're hurt, when we feel proud or happy. What is the relationship we have with comfort? So I was
mm.
starting to feel the little tenderness there and the vulnerability. So I'm really I feel touched that you're sharing that with me right now. Yeah. Um, and given the nature of our time and what we're doing here, we're going to just slowly shift gears and end our time. But I it's a little bit of a note of tenderness to end on, and comfort is such a, I think, a big piece. Yeah. So I feel grateful, and I just want to say, Valerie, how much I really appreciate you being here, being willing to kind of open the door to we don't know what, and here we are. Yeah. So before we end, I wonder if there's a few words that would feel good to you to state. There's no pressure, just to see if there's anything that wants to be said or shared before we kind of complete this little time together.
I'd say that not knowing what to expect and having done this process just as short as it was, I felt like I gained a little bit of awareness about myself just
Mm.
from short piece. And that was useful.
Valerie, I would love like your feedback and Davita yours too. But first, I just have to one huge thank you to both of you for your
Mm.
willingness to give this role play for us today. And two, I feel like I just had a master class in somatics in seeing what it can look like and how, okay, I'm just going to name it. You've made a believer out of me because there was a skeptical part, right? Coming in that thought, well, it will be really nice and it will be fluid and there will be
Mm.
slowness to it and it'll be gentle and then it'll almost feel like a meditation, right? Like that's what I had in my mind of
Uh-huh.
what it would be.
Yeah.
And then we're 5 minutes in, and whoo, Davita has taken it to a place where we're talking about our earliest childhood comfort. And I'm going, oh my goodness, now we're at our inner child. I'm just
Yeah.
really, wow, blown away at the depth of this process by simply tuning into what's happening in the body.
Yeah.
It's almost like I needed to see it before it sank in, right? Like I've heard you talk about it, and I've heard other practitioners of somatics work talk about really just tuning in and being present with what's showing up in the body. But wow, it's really different to see it in real time.
Yeah.
So thank you both for that.
You're welcome, Jen. Thank you so much for that reflection too. Yeah, the body it stores, it's been with us our whole life. It stores
Mhm.
everything, right? So it just takes a few moments to tune in, and then we start to feel, we start to be aware, and, you know, um, it can lead us down a road that you never expect or never know, and now I feel this sort of tender place with Valerie of what is that role of comfort and
Mhm.
where does she seek it? How has it been there in her life? And so, yes, we've then dive together.
Yeah, like you can almost follow the path of where the session would have gone, right? Like
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
really interesting.
yeah,
I'm just really honored and grateful to all of you that are in here and being a part of this process and really getting to show off the special and unique qualities that I think Prescott has.
yeah,
We're doing something special here.
yeah, for sure.
And I'm glad we got to see even just a little taste of it.
Yeah, me too. And I of course love Prescott, right? I did my whole program there and now teaching and coordinating the whole somatic emphasis is
Mhm.
just an honor. Yeah.
We are lucky to have you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.